Hello and welcome to another episode of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. My name is Allie with Anne Marie Speaks, and as titled, this is session 24, and we will be picking up where we left off in Matthew 13 with verse 24. If you are new, thanks so much for clicking and listening. Being a part of this wonderful Sacred Sunday routine that I have been cultivating in the last couple of years. This, as titled, is not average, it's not traditional. I don't come from a traditional background whatsoever. So here's my little disclaimer in the forefront. If you're looking for something like that, this probably is not what you're expecting, and I probably will not be bringing up or noticing or making comments on in a way that most traditional readings would, or perhaps you've heard others talk about or heard at church or anything like that. I've never actually really been to church myself, an organized one. You know, where two or more meet, there I am, is what he says. And so I make my own organic church in real life, in truth, and in light. But as far as going to the buildings or hearing how sermons are crafted or brought forth, I don't have experience with anything like that traditionally. So bear with me if you find my reading to be, quite contrasting to that. That's, why I've titled it Not Your Average. And also I have kind of that metaphysical Christianity tag and put at the bottom that this is a metaphysical look at the New Testament. I do have a pretty well-versed background and foundation in things that are more esoteric, and also other theologies, other sacred texts and scriptures that I've read before ever coming around to reading the New Testament. And so it's an interesting perspective, I feel, that I bring forth in this reading, and that usually I highlight things about that I hear within the text and the scriptures. So thank you so much for joining. If you're a returning listener, and you already know, I appreciate your energy and your audience so much. Thank you for being here. And yeah, let's get right down into business and continue on in here into another parable, which is, again, something very close to my heart, which I'm sure others, have favorite parables and things, but this one, it really stuck out to me. Beautiful visualizations that come along with it. So yeah, excited to read and get into deeper with the sower here. As I said before, we'll pick it back up where we left off. If you're interested in the first parts of Matthew 13, that's in my last number 23. We read through verse 23, and so I'll pick it right back up with this 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. And I really love how, I mentioned this in the last episode and in others as well, how he has this, Jesus has this great way of offering an image or a visual, a lesson or parable that's very surface level and superficial at first, and then diving deeper, pulling layers back and teaching the value underneath it even further, and kind of flipping the lens and teaching it to his disciples in a different way. I really appreciate that. And so he's sort of carrying on from what he spoke about before, about where good seed falls and into good ground, and then comparing that has good ground, where the seed has landed and been cultivated, to be likened into the kingdom of heaven, what he's talking about when he says the kingdom of heaven, right? Living in your righteous truth. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Now again, this is something that immediately comes to me and says, who's the enemy? Why do we have an enemy? How come there's an enemy always afoot? in the corners waiting and to take advantage or to slip in or to cause harm in some kind of way, to steal or manipulate in this really, a self-serving manner. And that can fall into, the whole scope of what theology is really placed upon, and having this sort of good versus evil battle. Whether we think earth is the place for that, or whether we think that something different, it doesn't even, there's so many things that we could think, but to take it for a grain of truth, that there is this oppositional grounding for good or evil to grow, to make more of it, and then to place yourself on the marker. It's your intention of which you choose to bring into manyness, what you choose to cause to fruition more of. What would you choose? What would you choose? But again, who chooses the negativity? It's such a contradicting paradox when we get looped into this. I find myself looped into it a lot, saying to myself, the shadow, those other parts of me, it's like, why do we come back to this? Why is this here? Why is there an enemy among us? I don't. But if we could just say, and like Jesus is teaching, and maybe the world asks us to just accept that there is, and how do you operate therefore, knowing that? How do you accommodate that, right? And so back to the teachings, exactly, right? But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath the tares? Right? So, and I should probably look up what the exactly tares are, but I'm assuming they're weeds, or something likened to weeds, something that's not supposed to grow with the wheat. But it's interesting, again, and even in the parable, even in the teaching of the truth, to seek the truth, we still have this hierarchy of authority. We still have positions of servant men, workers, overseers, householders and landholders, and servants and slaves. It's an intriguing position in architecture to be working upon. It's, wobbly in itself. But I think Jesus, a lot of his teachings and a lot of his responses, really, you can tell that he is speaking, coming from a place that he understands that architecture, and he doesn't stand upon it, really. He stands upon something much firmer that's underneath it all, that he's trying to bring forth, to rekindle and ask others to remember and recall that organic, natural foundation underneath it all. But again, I bring back his teachings of loving the enemy, liking those who don't like you, loving those who don't like anything you like, even more than you like those who are in agreement with you, he teaches. And so that's kind of the answer to the question posed myself, really. But again, it's so interesting to hear in the parables, to hear the exercises, to hear the different perspectives of the ways that these things can play out. And what we do, how we respond, is really the test of the marker. It's really has nothing to do with the catalytic occurrences at all, or who chose to play what roles in it. It's the responses that come forth from it that we are judged by, that we are held accountable for, that we have the responsibility and action to impact and influence. It's the only things we can impact and influence, in fact. But anyways, outside of the parameters of history and the society set up and all of this kind of sociological things, let's just listen to the parable. I really love this parable. This sort of second fold into the first one. It becomes so much grander and so much more beautiful. The spiritual weight of it, and also the promise that I feel is kept. So basically, if we do choose to stand on the ground that is promoted here, by Jesus, and understand that there is a Satan, a devil, an evilness, a negative structuring, potentials to work within negative systems, and that it's our choice and intentions of which we choose a positive alignments of productivity and service to others in these kind of organic ways that really promote overall health and wellness for the whole, or that more segregated service that's negatively aligned, that doesn't really care about the whole wellness of the whole at the moment, that says that its profitability, its comfortability, its productivity is more important than the whole, because that in some way excuses the whole's degeneracy or the degradation to the whole or the harm that's happening to the whole, because it's less important than that one inhabited, circumvented, sort of sectioned off faction, right? For whatever choice and reasonings it was been made. In fact, if we look at that and we know that is centered on an incorrectness, I mean, we are all of one. But again, to sort of stand on the fence, or to stand in this middle ground, on this tightrope walk, so to speak, that Jesus sort of portrays, and that says that each one of us is set upon the duty to choose or not, to choose upwards light or to choose downward shadow. That's what man is here for. That's the variable placeholder that man's exercise is here for. And that, there are parameters of energetics on either side promoting their intentional services, trying to get man in general to honor its service and to promote it by the light that man carries in general. And so, to open that sort of up and to say that that's what Jesus is calling forth, the generic template and the workings, and to hold acceptability that there is dark versus light, that there is good versus bad. And then that does sort of lend us to know that, unfortunately, in the corner, there is always something afoot, something seeking malalignment or nastiness in some kind of way, seeking to serve itself before others. To put those parameters in acceptance, and to hear the parable this one is very beautiful. I think it creates a lot of perseverance, courage to withstand, and to stand righteously in what you feel is correct for you, and to grow in the way that you know is right for you, to follow your son, to grow up your seed and bear your fruit in the way that your organic system is called forth to do. So out of my own words and back to the scripture here, let's jump in at 28. But he said unto them, an enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? And this is so, I really love the response here too, not to get too far away on a tangent or anything, but just as, a promising, humble student of gardening and of farming myself, and of understanding the sort of long-sightedness that farming takes, and the co-creative partnership that it really is. The wisdom, the trust, and the experiential knowledge that comes forth to know, no, we're not going to go tear up all those weeds that are growing around the roots right now. To have the farmer know that is so important, and yet, and to bring it into the parable of what he's teaching, it's just like I spoke about kind of these own things. There's always somebody in the corners, the shadows of trying to go up in these things within yourself and go pick at all these little scabs and problems within yourself. Why are you this way? Why do you want this? Instead, just let them be. Don't give them overdue attention, and don't go, allowing them to grow more. But know that at harvest time, they will be dealt with, Anyways, into 29. But he said, nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. But let both grow together until the harvest. And in time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Now, this is so smart. It is the ultimate sort of harmonious solution to be found that says that, yeah, we don't need the tares. They aren't of value, so to speak, to the garden and to be put into my barn. But in realizing that they have their own place in space, it's like, it was so eye-opening to me. And to go further into the parable, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed into his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds. But when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. And again, another sort of great knower and this wisdom that comes with farmer, gardening, people who are in touch with organic growth and the knowledge of, the mustard seed is literally tiny, and it grows forth a tree. Some of the herbs, they have larger seeds, and they just grow into these little things on the ground. What a parable in itself, what a metaphor in itself, right? Another parable spoke he unto them. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto leaven. I love this one. Which a woman took and hid 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. This I sat with for a minute, because the old-timey language, at first I'm like, well, I don't really, I can't really resonate with it at first. And the word quickened has been such a word for me over the last couple of years. It's in my Walter Russell prayer, and it's one of those things I didn't quite understand until recently. It's like watching bread rise in the oven, though, and this likening it to yeast, and then understanding that rising feeling, that enlivened feeling is really within the body. There's no words for that feeling that I've had for quite a while. This sort of fever, or invigoration, this real energetic momentum built within me. But to quicken, to rise, to bring it to the parable of having bread with yeast inside of it, or baking soda, baking powder, all these different activators that bring in air and lightness and dimensionality and cause porous space into something. It makes something, even in the quality of it, something new. Such a chemistry catalytic kind of vision and image, that is become so relatable to me in a way that seemed very separate before. Bringing it back, let's get back into the actual scripture here at 34. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitudes in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled that was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Then Jesus sent the multitudes away, and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. And again, I've mentioned this before, but it's just like to have this first lesson given forth, and that it's superficial in itself, but it has great depth available. There's stuff that you get out of it. It has spiritual connectivity to it. There's some lessons in there. There's tangibility into direct life and into the harder practices, spiritual practice, the life's practice, the practice in the body, the practice of the mind. All those things are readily available in the forefront message that he hands sort of to the masses, or but to turn it inwards to the disciples and take it deeper. It's so beautiful. It gives me a fresher look. And so let's pick it up where we left off. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. Now remember that. This is another thing, because so many people, and even today, I hear traditional sense. Jesus is the only way. He is the path. You have to go through him to get to the Father. And there's so many who are very, very literal in this sense, and thinking that Jesus was the only one to ever have the path available to him in this sort of very special way. And this is not at all what he's saying here, in his own words. So, there's contradictory teachings. There's this kind of, propositioned belief patterns that sometimes people get corralled into in the mainframe. But I'm trying to at least see it from a full scope in a more generalistic sense. In this, and it's how much more obvious can you get when he says, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. Now, I really like if we take it into sort of the juxtaposition and put it as a sort of timeline, societal, sociological look at this. Jesus is saying to him, the Son of Man, I myself, this heightened sort of epiphany that I have come to, that I have made the point of my life. The gateway sort of to this ascension, this 100th monkey version of man, the Son of Man, it is there for all of us, for each one of his disciples even, he says, to reach this culmination. But that the Son of Man in this sort of metaphor, right, is Jesus, and the wheat growing is the children of the kingdom. And he's already said beforehand, the children of the kingdom, right, are any of those who are in their time of growth, but who are of good ground and who hear the truth, right? And we pick it up, of course, with the long guy is back with the weed whacker outside the window. So my notice to wrap it up is coming. And so I'll get through here what Jesus is saying, and then I'll find a good space to cut it off, because I'm sure it might be quite distracting to anybody trying to hear me, even though I do have the windows closed and everything. But I'm doing my best to make myself heard, to not be putting up video full of distracting backgrounds. But anyways, the field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be at the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. I'll leave this there, and we'll come back, and we'll pick it back up next week for the end of 13. Because just for a minute, I'd like to just speak on this and to say the metaphor that we can each take very clearly here that's offered, I think, is, to do our best in our life that we are given, the place that we are birthed up and growing at, the set and setting we're a part of here. to do our best to grow in the sun that reaches us, to reach towards the sun that reaches us, and to honor that in the most truthful way that we can, is the best as the children of the kingdom, the work that we can do at the moment. To be humbly at the capacity to know that you're not at that Son of Man growth point yet, but to acknowledge that that perfection is available to us is really the promise, I feel. And to know that the end of our days, simultaneously the end of the world for us, but for the world in general, brings with it the rightness, the justification. Everything will be set in order as it should be. And those things which grow around you all your life, which you don't agree with, or those things within you which perhaps you don't find so accommodating or comfortable, they will burn away. They will find taken away from you and from the world. It's such a supportive and comforting truth and knowledge to help us withstand and stand through in many different ways. And it can be just hardships in your life. It can be disruptions from in your day-to-day peace of mind. It can be things that could be a lot more threatening, even in the wickedness that we see in the world today. To know that things will be rectified and set straight, and that it's not really of our role to do that, I find to be very comforting and solidifying, and also rekindling to my own purpose and my own sort of growth and journey. It's much like I just finished the book Candide, I cannot help but quote Voltaire here now, and to say cultivate your garden is the message of life, is that where the joy is to be found, is to where the work is purpose, and all of these things that invigorate us and make life worth living, make our honor to God. If God is the creation of every moment, it's to honor that source of creation, is to be enlivened and is to be an enjoyment of whatever you're looking out, observing, and whatever you're a part of, whatever type of day we're having, to just simply be that piece of wheat growing, to just grow, and to know that the sun takes care of it, the weather will come, everything will be taken care of. It's such a calming and harmonious sort of soothing salve, or what's the word I'm thinking? An ointment or something like that. Honey, substance is very thick and nourishing layer that just I guess I'm at a loss for words, and I'm also noticing I'm at a loss for time. So I think it's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you for listening as I'm coughing out here at the end. It's been a wonderful reading and thinking on these great parables and visualizations. So thank you for coming along on the journey with me today and listening. Love to hear anybody and all comments, personal insights, things that you've heard or you heard somewhere else or hear within yourself along these scriptures that we've talked about today. It always brightens my day to see comments and replies. I get emails and messages from listeners and like-minded thinkers, or even totally different-minded thinkers out there. So thank you. Thank you for your contribution to our collective, for your energetic audience here, for taking time out on a beautiful sacred Sunday to honor our great wholeness, source, creator, God, Jesus, whatever you'd like to call, reference, or honor that practice for. Yeah. Put a name on it or not. Thank you. And I'll see you next Sunday.